Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good? All right. How many people drink coffee? How many people like good coffee? Well, if you like good coffee, you're going to learn what you can do with that Keurig during this talk, because Keurigs produce mostly garbage, but really cool stuff. So let's give Evan a big round of applause.
Thank you. Everybody hear me all right? Sound good? Awesome. I'm Evan, as the gentleman said. We're going to start off today with my shotgun of random. I need to put a few rounds through real quick just to get us going. There's a lot of these guys around. These protocols are going to become more popular. Companies like this are going to start adopting them, and then they're going to get cheaper and cheaper, and then eventually it's going to be in new construction, and then everyone will have this connected home thing, right? And so eventually audio will be connected, lights in your home will be connected, and then someone's going to find a god-awful exploit, and then I really hope that it's one of you and you have a sense of humor, and one of you does this. It's murder night! Yeah! Woo! And also this. All right. Cool. So the next time that you tell a joke that everyone in your crowd should get, and then they are a jerk about it and they don't get it, I don't know, say this. Say, hey, look, man, I'm sorry. It was an inside joke, this thing we all had to learn in elementary school. Like, you really just had to be there, I guess. So. All right. Is that a goat? I just redid my deck. I have a deck goat, officially. This is all random stuff. Cool. Wouldn't it be terrible if you had some condition where, like, all of your inner dialogue was in garden path sentences? So you'd be like, did I leave the bathroom light on? Toilet paper? Dang it. Frick. Google that later. Okay. Those guys who are jerks are like, it's like someone walks by quickly and they're like, hey, where's the fire? Like, that is the one time that I really wish that I could produce fire out of my hands. That would be the best time for that. All right. Is Deviant in here? Deviant? Cool, watch it later. Okay, so, so Deviant, we were all sitting around at CarolinaCon having a conversation, and he got paid a compliment by Chef, and just wanted to let you know that Chef was absolutely right about that, 100%. And while we're here, anybody like yard sale in here? Any, like yard sailors? Anybody? Someone needs to make an app. Sometimes you find stuff that's still like in the package, you know? Someone needs to find an app that you can just like scan that, and it'll tell you where to return it and how much you can get for it, right? Cool. Oh. All right, we're out. Okay, cool. All right, so this is Jittery MacGyver. That was a shotgun of randoms. All right. Today we're going to be talking about finding potential. And I guess another way of looking at this is MacGyvering, right? So who watched MacGyver growing up in here? Should be a lot of you, right? So if you're the uninitiated, MacGyver, you could put him in any situation, give him any stuff, right? And he can like use that stuff and like find a solution and get him back into safety, right? So really cool guy, a lot of fun to watch, and I really love that kind of problem solving, that kind of engineering. So let's look at a couple examples of like solid MacGyvering throughout history. Ready? So the first one is George Washington Carver. This guy is a complete and utter badass. So he arrived actually at a new job. He's like the director of agriculture at some college in Georgia, right? And they didn't have money to buy his lab equipment. Didn't even tell him about it, right? And so like instead of like rage quitting, he took his students and they went and scavenged like junkyards and stuff and found lab equipment and like eventually got all the stuff they needed to make cool stuff happen. And you guys probably know Mr. Carver for his work on the peanut, right? He made a couple of things with that. So he looked at that and he said, there's some potential here in this little thing, and he did a whole lot with it. Another really cool example is Cuba, right? So like in 91, when the Soviet Union dissolved, Cuba found themselves in a really bad financial crisis, right? They couldn't like trade with anybody, and so they sort of had this stuff, and they had to really make do with what they had. just to get by. So, I mean, the whole place turned into a bunch of MacGyvers, right? And the government knew that it'd take a long time for them to like work their way out of this problem. So they put out these two publications. One was the Book for the Family, and the other is With Our Own Efforts. And basically these are like giant compilations of like popular mechanics and like recipes and how-to guides and stuff, just using stuff that they already had, right? So this book is really interesting. It's pretty long. It's like 300 pages long. I'll highlight some of the really interesting things for you here. So first off is this cutout of a person with like an uncomfortable amount of attention paid to the nipular region for God knows why. This is, it looks like plans for a primitive kill yourself device. And if you liked AK-47, you're going to love AK-47 on a stick for reasons. This one's my favorite, though. This is the desplasmatizador. And this, you take jars and you connect them with either wires or tubes or something, and maybe some needles. This is, I think that's maybe like unsettled Italian dressing or something. I don't know. But anyways, you plug all that into what looks like either a motor or a compressor from a refrigerator, and you plug that immediately into the wall. And I think this probably opens up a portal to an alternate dimension where terrible ideas come from. But one thing that everyone had is this Eureka washer/dryer combination. And everybody's dryer part of this thing crapped out, right? Something went wrong with it and couldn't use it anymore. So like this spawned a whole like underground industry of people who were crafty enough to take these things and like most of the time they would just cut it right in the middle and discard the dryer part. But the motors in them were still good. So they used those motors for everything. Like this is shredding coconut. This is a key duplication machine. This is, I mean, they took a outboard motor impeller or propeller and slapped it on the motor and made a fan, right? Pretty awesome. And everything was like this. So if you wanted something, you had to build it. And so you had like glasses like these, which would like earn you plus 10 charisma for even looking at them, I think. Holy crap. And like these locks they look pretty secure, right? I don't know. Yeah, maybe they have some in the lock people, I don't know. This thing, supposedly this like refreshed hearing aid batteries. Also, if you were drinking while you used it, it would remove the need for hearing aids altogether because you would be dead a lot. So this is actually like a homemade plastic extrusion stuff, right? So like if OG like Cuban Bane was around, he'd be like, "Oh, you merely adopted 3D printing," right? And everything's like this. So they use these metal food trays as antennas. It's amazing stuff. So a lot of really, really interesting stuff. There's a whole website. It's called Technological Disobedience, just like dedicated just for this stuff, right? So another really great example, it comes from 1970. And April 11th, we launched Apollo 13. And you guys know that, we got into space okay. There were a few hiccups here and there, and we were, trucking along, and all of a sudden...
We've had a problem here. This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
Houston, we've got a problem, right? So they thought they got hit by an asteroid at first, but it turns out it was just a short in some Teflon insulation on some wires. It caused a fire. It caused an oxygen tank to explode. And then all of a sudden, they don't have any life support. So they had to tunnel over into the lunar module and stay over there because that had a separate life support module. But the problem was that they were clogging the lithium hydroxide filters, which scrub the air from of CO2, and it makes it breathable again, right? So you got all of the astronauts in this thing, and they need to be in there for 4 days. That's way too long. So NASA they anticipated this, and they got busy, right? So they're back at home base, and they've got filters, but they're square, and they need to fit in a round hole. It's like literally the peg scenario, right? So they came up with this. This is the mailbox rig. Basically, they just took the cardboard cover off the flight plan and a piece of plastic here and a tube there and all this stuff, and they made it back on Earth, and then they sent them the instructions, and they're astronauts, so they figured it out, and they made one themselves. Look how calm he looks. He's just like, yeah, I just made a mailbox rig, saved out everybody's life, right? So you guys probably know this story. But my favorite part is this guy, Ed Smiley. He's was the chief of Crew Systems Division at the time, and he spearheaded the design and the testing of the mailbox rig. And he's amazing. And something that he said later, after they landed, was this. He said, "When I found out we had duct tape on board, we were pretty well home free." Crazy. So, those are a few great examples through history that I love. I'm going to talk about a few things that I've done personally, right? So the first thing is everyone's got like a big bin of cables in your home, in your office, in your closet, somewhere, right? I was no exception, and I found that thing, and I was like, I'm going to do something with this. So I made a universal serial bullwhip, and this is a 8-foot, 18-plant bullwhip, and there's a very thin leather belt on the end with a regular nylon cracker, and there's one like thick DVI cable like as the trunk in the middle, And you think it cracks? You want to see? Well, I'll tell you what. Hang on. I got it right here. Let's do this thing live, all right? So this is probably the first time ever that you guys need to pray to the demo gods. Bunch of metal. You'd probably tear your face off. All right. So another one, I was going down to a conference in Atlanta, and I brought this giant Pelican case just full of office stuff, right? So I immediately got to the hotel room, and don't tell them, took everything apart, and from the ashes arose Milton. And Milton, I don't even know what it is exactly, but it's like a really heavy, spiky bat thing with a red swing line on the end for the name. Dude, paper shredder heads are like, they're gnarly, man. Good grief. I got so many like little pricks and cuts. That's RJ45 just kind of wrapping everything together like a boss. So basically I just took, like you guys ever an all-in-one printer? It's like gears and rods and like demons. It's like, I don't even know how it works, man. There's a spell on all of them. And it took all like the long, sturdy pieces, and then I wrapped them all in like some like case metal, right? And I duct taped all that. And this is the size of it. Compared to 2 Evans, and it's I guess around 13, 14 pounds. So let's see what it does here. So that was a coconut. Here's slow-mo. The resolution of this video is practically hand-drawn. All right, let's see if we can do any more here. Oh! Man, you would not want to get wrecked with that. All right, so that was Milton. The other thing I worked on was terminal cornucopia, and this is something I did a couple of years ago, and the project itself spanned about a year and a half, and basically I hypothesized that a potential attacker could go into an airport with nothing but cash, right? Maybe like a small travel-approved multi-tool, and they could, having successfully gotten through security for, there's no reason not to, just go like to the shops and, get things that anyone could grab and then make potentially deadly weapons with it, right? So I wanted to figure out if that was the case, and so I set up some rules. So you could only use materials that can be sourced inside the terminal after security screening. Can't walk in with anything but cash and a small travel-approved multi-tool, and anything you'd get yelled at for taking or messing with is completely off limits, right? And I found some crazy stuff in airports in my day, like drills and all sorts of stuff. So I went to a bunch of airports, and things that I couldn't buy commonly, on the store I would get at the airport. Otherwise, I'd just shop at like Walmart or something. Made for some really creepy purchases. But. So I worked on this for about a year, and sort of like scaled up the complexity as I went. And here is a supercut of the results. You'd use condoms, right? So, completely remote incendiary device there. And then I put it in a suitcase. It's a long story. Safety first, guys. Yep. Ah, run away! This went off for like half an hour. Yeah, like everywhere. So hey, you can make weapons out of stuff you buy in airports. Awesome. It was a lot of fun. All right, so that was actually the really long version of the video I thought that was. So I'm going to go through this quickly. So this is practical post-apocalyptic electronics. I was worried that more and more people don't really understand anything about electricity whatsoever, but everyone sort of relies on it, right? That's a problem. So I kind of set out to figure out, like what's the least amount of information someone would need to know to like make practical work happen with electricity, right? If they just have stuff in their house, no tools, really anything like that. So I stayed in a shack in Kentucky. It's like a 6.5 foot by 11 foot shack with no power in Kentucky for about a week, and it'd been about 15 years since I've been in there. It's secure. Totes. And there he is. Okay. That was a giant spider. So the shack is gone, and just kidding. I'm kidding. I like lined the walls with like tarp. Like I use that foam stuff, like all of it, in that whole city. So yeah, I just started building stuff. So used one of those tchotchke flashlights, LED flashlights, mounted that to a full bottle of water, acts as a diffuser, made a nice little centerpiece there, strung up some lights. This is power management. I had several ways to power. I wanted to end up with 12 volts and 5 volts, right? 12 volts is common with vehicles and automotive, and then 5 obviously is USB. So you're going to have a billion batteries that regulate to 5 volts, and then a lot of stuff that consumes 5 volts, right? So, and there's a strong set. Let's see. So yeah, I put this control panel on the wall. And this, does different things. I found a relay someplace. Let's see. This actually arms my security system in there. So you have to have a key to disable it, or just rip it off the wall. I don't know. So yeah. So the first thing I wanted to do is start automating things, right? So I found this momentary switch and a leaf blower, and I wanted to make it so when I walk in, I have it taped down, that the light would automatically cut on for me. Isn't that nice? I wanted an alarm too, right? Because it's Kentucky and you're just going to die any minute. So I took a head unit out of an old Honda, and specifically the little gear assembly that ejects the CD-ROM. CD. And I made a really redneck latching relay. So I wanted this set up to where, like, when you trigger it, it does not become undone by undoing the thing you just did to trigger it, right? So in this case, opening the door. And how this works basically is this little mechanism starts winding up, and that starts pulling on that trot line, which yanks a little piece of plastic out of the way between a clothespin that have 2 leads on it. That is the only thing separating those leads from connecting and completing the circuit on this 32 volts array of 9 volts. So, and all of that runs down to the weasel on the wall, of course. Frickin' spiders. How's that? So yeah, so I got off that and I thought, the scope is a bit too broad. It's tough for people to connect with that. So I started looking at specific pieces of hardware. So like, what is our Eureka washer-dryer combo, like, for Cuba? So I started looking at Keurigs, and Keurigs are interesting to me for a couple reasons, right? So Keurigs, they're in nearly 1 in every 3 homes, and that's a survey done last year. And they no lack of critical issues for sure, right? These things break all the time for different reasons across generations. And if you guys ever pull one apart or pull one open, there's a lot of really cool stuff in there, right? So that's a nice recipe, because you have a lot of these being thrown out, and a lot of the components are still good, right? -1. And I wanted to know what you can do with that. So I wanted to find, what's the potential of a Keurig? So I've gotten started on that, and here we are. So just a quick review of the common internals. So you'll have a display of some sort. This is usually connected to your user interface stuff, so maybe some buttons. The more recent models, they upgraded a bit, and they have just a 4-conductor resistive touchscreen, so it kind of cleans things up. This is kind of the main board, and This is sort of like the mullet of PCBs, right? It's like surface mount on the front, through hole in the back. Yeah. Although that's the front, I think, but it doesn't work as well for the joke. So lots of little ribbon cables and wires here and there. Some of these transformers, these have, like, some of them have discrete, power regulation boards and all that. You find nice little breakouts here and there. This is a momentary switch with a couple LEDs. You'll find some of these nice reed switches here. These magnetic switches, these make sure that you got the lid closed and all that. You'll find some bottle caps in there for scale. Anyone know what this is? So this is the guy responsible for the DRM and the 2.0 models, right? Yeah, it just reads the levels of RGB and A, I think. So yeah, you'll find one of these, at least, some kind of pump, or some kind of motor assembly. Some of these are really nice, right? This one came out of a View, and it's a nice stepper motor. It's got like built-in speed control. It's got a brake on it. You could go reverse. It's got a Hall effect sensor built in, all this stuff. The newer ones, the 2.0s, they don't have that. They got a regular DC brushless motor, but that's okay. You'll find some of these. There's an air pump here and there. There's a water pump on the right. The old ones have these solenoids, which is nice. The new ones, they sort of did away with that. All of them will have a boiler of some sort. Here's one right here. And a ton of both flexible and rigid tubing, and as well as connectors, and stuff that you would put in a sock if you wanted to kill someone in prison. And a whole lot of plastic, right? Different types of plastic, brittleness, thickness, all that stuff, right? So, man, you could do a lot of stuff with that, right? Anyone's wheels turning here? Mine surely were. So, just a quick disclaimer. I don't represent Keurig in any way. I'm actually a customer. I use mine a couple times a day. I work at home. I say what I want. Spaghetti. So, the first thing I wanted to do is look at a thermal image of Keurig working normally. And so I did that. Basically, who in here thinks that the Keurigs, when they boil under pressure, when the water heats up? There's one guy. So, yeah, they boil into the atmosphere. So I was disappointed about that. So basically, water heats up in the boiler, and then a different pump rams air into that and forces it out over your coffee grounds into your cup, right? Excellent. So I wanted to figure out how to really disturb that process. So I started working on WARPAL, which is an acronym for the worst part of waking up. So I started taking it apart, and keep in mind, guys, this is not like an exploit or anything. This is like just straight up sabotage, right? Like there's no disclosure here. Yeah, so they got AC coming in, and that connects here to our main board, right? And then it eventually goes back out to these heating elements, but not before passing through these two guys. And these are both heat-related. So the bottom one is an SE fuse. It's got a little organic thermo-sensitive compound, and it's crafted in such a way that if it gets reaches a certain temperature, it melts down, spring disengages, and it separates your circuit forever, right? The top one, it just either stays on or off until it reaches a certain temperature, and then it flip-flops. Also, this guy, it's a little pressure sensor, right? A little tube ring into the bottom. I imagine that probably has something to do with whether or not they're going to power, the heating element on the boiler. Bless you. So, if only there was a way to bypass, all of this logic. Oh, right, wire ties. So, yeah. Now we've got a 120 volts AC going directly to the heating element, so that should be good. But we still have the issue of these three guys here, right? Oh yeah, right. So JB Weld, that'll do it. Cool. So yeah, now we've got a boiler that's got water in it that is should be sealed, right? And let's see what happens. All of our precious pressure. All right, so look at it thermally. It looks normal until it just all of a sudden turns into Satan's butthole and things just go sideways. So I actually left this on to see if anything else would happen. I didn't figure it would. It just got hotter and hotter until the whole house started smelling like Satan's butthole, and then I cut it off because it was on fire pretty much, It got super melty. It really smelled awful. Good grief. But yeah, no, I figured that, our seals failed, but they did not, actually. It was a different result, and both of or all three of our seals were intact. What happened was it just got too hot, like the whole top just sort of like melted and slid to the side and just let all the pressure out, right? So that was kind of a bummer. I wanted it to explode and all that. But it's okay because science, right? That's a result. Now we know. So we can sort of move on to new things. So the next thing I worked on, or actually this is during a conference, I built Debug, and this is the delicious beverage dispensing badge of unmitigated Goram glory. And so basically, you've got a solenoid and an air pump. One button pumps air into the container with a delicious beverage, and then when you press the other button to disengage the solenoid, that has to go somewhere, so it comes out the little spout, just like this. Good job, fella. So when I travel with this, I like to leave a note just to be nice, I guess, because he looks sketchy, man. Seriously. Although I must say, every time I've traveled with this, my luggage has not been searched. So, or at least they're not leaving notes anymore. I don't know. They leave notes still? They leave notes, right? Oh man. Anyway, so yeah, moves on to my big build here, and this is Hedberg. And that's not an acronym at all. So I wanted to build something that was moderately complex. It had to have some precision to really sort of work well. And I started looking at these prosthetic hands, right? And these are cool because there's some really nice ones. This one's like I think 80 grand, something like that, something insane. But also there's some really great work happening in like the 3D space, right? Like so they could print these for $10, and they function. They're great. You could as soon as you outgrow them, you just print another one. It's not a big deal, And it's all open source, and it's great, right? So I kind of wanted to see where I can get, just relative to both, I guess the commercial product, right, which is crazy, and then sort of what people are doing with additive printing. So I started making some junk prototypes just to sort of feel out what was possible, get an idea of how the materials work together, and so I just started tinkering with different mechanisms just to, see what works and what didn't. So there's that. I started, dealing with these little finger guys. Because really, I think the digits were the thing I wanted to really kind of nail. That's sort of the linchpin, right? So I tried a couple different designs, did a lot of research, saw what other people were doing. And I felt like, based on all that knowledge, I could go ahead and start my build, right? So I started working on Hedberg. And a couple things to note here. I used one single Keurig, right? One single K350 or 300, kind of the same thing. And only external materials in the end product are adhesives. And I think that with a couple iterations of the design, you probably do away with a lot of that. I just used basic tools. I didn't want to you watch a video on YouTube or something and someone makes something cool and it's like, well, yeah, they've got a pristine shop with every tool imaginable, right? Sort of I don't know. It's kind of cheating, right? So I just use a Dremel, basically, and a heat gun and some hand tools, files, stuff like that. No plans for this, just sort of making it up as I go along. And so at the end of the day, it was 199 hours, 56 minutes, and 36 seconds of working time. So that's time at the bench, with my hands on materials, doing things, manipulating stuff. And guess what? I recorded every second of that, and you're going to see it now. Settle in. You have to drum on it. Get it started. It's every second of this whole build. Settle in. Hey! That's Ed Berg. Beautiful. Thank you for working. So, of course, I made a case for it, and of course, it was an issue at TSA. So yeah, let's talk about the features real quick. So it's got distributed grip pressure. I used sort of a fulcrum here in the middle. So if there's more pressure on like one side of the hand or side of the fingers than the other, it sort of like compensates with the other side. It has an official gangster electronic speed controller on it. So there are no like 555 timers or no like components necessary to build a traditional one. So the issue was the regular motor, it just moves too quickly, right? Your hand would just be like going crazy. There's no control. So I had to improvise. So usually the way this is done is with pulse width modulation. So like think about an LED. It's either on or off, right? But you could dim them by turning them on and off really, really fast. And then like it gets more dim when you have it on, less than you have it off. Make sense? So yeah, the way I did that is I basically took one of those motors and then took a piece of plastic in the middle and mounted a magnet on one side of the thing that spins in the middle. And then on the other side, I just mounted a magnetic switch, right? So you end up with something like this, and there's a little screw there to adjust the amount of exposure that magnetic switch actually gets with the magnet. So it actually increases or decreases the pressure. As you can see it working here. Make sense? So every time that magnet swings around and it trips that sensor, it puts 12 volts to that motor, and your hand moves forward just a little bit more. So slowing it down, I thought about using friction, but that's probably a bad idea. So you have to drop the voltage, try to voltage divider. The resistors actually in the Keurig were not rated high enough, and these started smoking. That's bad. So eventually, I called my brother, and he was like, yeah, just, diodes, they drop the voltage about 0.7 volts. And there are like 9 of them in the Keurig, so I just chained a bunch of them together. So that works just fine. It doesn't get too hot. There is some room for improvements. Of course, I built it, so to me, it's perfect. But yeah, if you put a microcontroller and a few components in this thing, like it would be ridiculous, right? So you could start using that color sensor. You could use that to get feedback on where the fingers are, potentially, all sorts of things. You could actually, implement analog input. You could, control the, the speed and all that stuff. Just using a microcontroller would be really simple. Of course, I didn't have that luxury here. But yeah, you can do all this cool stuff. So what's next for this, the Keurig stuff? I want to look at like water filtration and purification. I want to look at cooking. I think that'd be fun. I think there's some interesting applications for gardening and maybe some hydroponics. I would like to build an aquarium because that'd be funny. Meta, what about like building something that would help you build other stuff? Yeah. But one thing that I've actually started on and got some headway going here are firearms. So I might be the first person to actually shoot a Keurig. So where do we go from here? Real quick, because we're like short on time. Guys, the stuff surrounding us all the time has like huge amounts of potential. Huge. Like everybody, long pants, right? Humongous. And if the thing that like gives you mediocre coffee every day can actually help someone pick something up who normally couldn't, that represents a huge gap in like what we're using it for and what the actual potential of this thing is, right? So, frequent MacGyvering, it lets your brain naturally find more interesting and clever solutions to everyday problems. It's just a good mental exercise. Also, if you're stubborn enough, everything is sandpaper. And winter is coming. So, for this project, it was almost 200 hours long. And the first part was great because I got fingers going, and I was like, yeah, fingers. And I'm like, oh crap, now I got to actually make this work consistently and drudge through the slow and tedious parts and fail and try things again and all that stuff. So that was tough, and it's good to know that going in and get mentally prepared for it, just so you could actually finish the project, right? Big one is, man, take everything apart. This is a huge skill. I don't care if it's yours or not. I'm not the police, but dude, if you get enough experience with this thing, right? Taking something apart will eventually become like having a conversation with the engineer who built it, which is pretty cool because as I'm taking stuff apart, I'm like, why is this here? Oh, this is pressure fit. I don't have to use any screws here. That's great. So yeah, I want to thank a few awesome people real quick. My mom, first and foremost. The time-lapse video, I knew I wanted Claire de Lune in it because that's one of my favorite Vegas songs. for a lot of reasons, and it's actually in the public domain, but all the recordings were kind of pricey. My mom's a pianist, and so my wife had the idea. I was like, call your mom. I was like, oh, okay. And she ran off in a storm and recorded that for me. And that will be available in the public domain. If you guys want to download it, I'll put a link in my Twitter eventually. Yeah, thanks, Mom. Dan Taylor, right here, he let me borrow his thermal cam for like months. And last night I was like, man, I need some Vegas footage here. And it was like 9 o'clock. I was like, Dan, you want to shoot some stuff? And a couple drinks later, at 2 a.m., we had some freaking amazing footage. So thanks for that, Dan. My brother Taylor, he would be available on the phone for electronics questions. He's an EE and all that stuff. And most of all, you guys, right? So I'm talking to you guys, and you guys absolutely blow me away with the stuff you're working on, and and the struggles that you're going through with it. And it occurs to me that a lot of you're probably carrying the flag, all by yourself on a lot of the stuff. And a lot of the stuff's a lot of your projects are really important, even your side projects. So I just want to encourage you guys to keep your head up with that. Even if the number of people supporting you is 0, that's all right. Come to these things and find people who get you and help you, be you and get your awesome projects done. So, guys, thanks so much. Go build some stuff. Awesome.